Sounds like we're starting. I hear the wings. The wings of activating the stream. I hear their horns. They're charging. Ah! Hello. Good afternoon, or evening, or morning, wherever you are. Today is a nice Sunday for me. How is it for you? I hope it's going fine. So, yeah, I hope it's going all nice and fine for you. Let me just get a quick drink of water. Was wondering where my cat was. He's right there. You having a nice nap? He's napping. Making noise from my chair. Anyways, how's everybody doing? I hope you're doing nice and relaxed. Because we're about to do a little bit of continuation from what we did yesterday, as in something new. So, we started off on the idea of talking about secrets. Stuff that people don't want you to know, the government don't want you to know. Well, how do we know the government's actually the ones in charge? We know our parents are usually in charge of us, right? But what about... transition! Transition again! Smooth. A little too loud. Transition a little quieter. Here we go. So who's in charge of our parents? The government? Well, who's in charge of the government? Well, that's what we're gonna go and try to understand today. By a little introduction of one of your favorite doctors.
Doctor Strange 2 revealed that the Illuminati are a thing in the multiverse, but they may be around on the main MCU Earth as well. Spoilers ahead for Multiverse of Madness. So all the way back in Iron Man 2, there is a folder that can be very briefly seen on Tony Stark's phone labeled Illuminati. It was never brought up again since the MCU was focused on telling different stories, but Iron Man is a key member of the Illuminati in the comics, alongside Doctor Strange, Professor X, Mr. Fantastic, and Black Bolt, all of whom appeared in Multiverse of Madness. So is it too crazy of an idea that Stark was putting a secret team together in the background as the phases went by? Or maybe he was just collecting ideas and thoughts that could be passed on to someone like Doctor Strange or Rhodey, like he did with the Edith glasses and Peter Parker, which could lead to the formation of the team in the main Earth 616 sometime in the future. Doctor Strange 2 revealed that the Illuminati are...
Okay, I was expecting it to stop. But we see that we already incorporated them into our pop culture, even though we knew that they were a thing back in the day. The Illuminati, plural of Latin. Yeah, meaning, wait, plural of Latin, illuminatus, enlightened. Both real and fictitious, historically named usually refers to the Bavarian Illuminati, an enlightened era secret society founded in May 1st, 1776 in Bavaria. Really? Oh, you learned something new? I didn't think they were a real thing. Apparently they were. Today part of Germany. Makes sense. The society's goal were to oppose superstition, obscurantism, anti-intelligence practices of deliberately presenting information in abstruse and impartial manner that limits further inquiry and understanding of a subject. Okay, religious influence over public life, and abuse of state power. The order of the day. The order of the day to control. They wrote in their general status. So this gives us like an idea of what their main goal was. They were they were to oppose. I don't know if that's still. Let's see. I guess it didn't. Let's continue reading. An end to the machination of the purveyors of injustice to control them without dominating them. The Illuminati, along with Freemasonry and other secret societies, were outlawed through edicts by Charles Theodore, Elector of Bavaria, with the encouragement of the Catholic Church. Sounds like a church thing to do. During the subsequent years, the group was generally vilified by conservatives and religious critics who claimed the Illuminati continued underground and were responsible for the French Revolution. Influence over. Well, I'm kind of going for the Illuminati based off of this definition here, going against superstition and religious influence all over the world. That's a Wikipedia definition. What about Britannica's definition? Designation used in the 15th century, associated by. Well, let me put some. There we go. That's what's missing. Designation used for the 15th century, associated by and applied to various groups of persons who claim to be unusually enlightened. That's just a quick definition that we have in Britannica. What about we just watch a YouTube video to explain more instead of reading more?
Bill Gates, Beyonce, Oprah, the infographic show. For years, rumors have swirled that powerful organizations and celebrities have all been...
over.
Bill Gates, Beyonce, Oprah, the infographic show. For years, rumors have swirled that powerful organizations and celebrities have all been part of a global movement to control humanity and shape the way it thinks. In most cases, this movement takes the form of the infamous Illuminati, a group allegedly dedicated to absolute control over all mankind. But who actually are the Illuminati? What do they really want? And how do you know this video itself is not just more Illuminati propaganda meant to throw you off the scent from the truth? The name Illuminati actually comes from the Latin plural Illuminatus.
Yes, we just read about that from Wikipedia and Britannica. So some truth. Looks like we're on the right trail.
Or enlightened. The name is inspired by the idea of enlightening oneself through knowledge and would evolve to signify the breaking of a man's bonds of ignorance through education and reason. But it all started with one man who really hated his bosses. Adam Weishaupt was born in 1748, and in 1773 he gained employment at the University of Ingolstadt as a professor of canon law. Basically, the laws that governed cannons both on a battlefield and on ships. Okay, fine, actually canon law is the guidelines and regulations which are established by a religious authority for the purpose of running a government of a religious organization. In essence, Weishaupt was an expert on church law.
Kind of sounds like a little bit of what's going on in today's governments.
But was himself not actually a member of the clergy. This would be a bit of a problem in a university which was mostly run by clergy, and not just any clergy, but Jesuits. Jesuits were themselves established in the 16th century with the approval of Pope Paul III. Their official mission was global evangelization with a special focus in education and helping different sects of Christians to work together. Jesuits were sort of the SEAL Team 6 of Christianity, and were told to expect to go anywhere in the world and suffer any adversity for the sake of helping the poor.
I like to imagine, I don't know if any of you've seen Hot Fuzz, but like when he said how they're like the SEAL Team 6, this popped in my head. Oh, let's do this.
Where exactly
Oh,
did you go?
get through this ad first. Yeah, I hope you're all having a nice day. Learning about Illuminatis. I'm going to try to keep this short and quick. I know we're missing a shootout. There we go. I think this must be at the part right here. Here we go. And that just pops in my head when he just said that the Jesuits were the SEAL Team 6. Alright, anyways.
Poor and uneducated. Jesuits, however, soon became a thorn in the side of the European powers, as they were a little too good at their job. Jesuits established special settlements in many colonial territories and refused to allow the populations under their care to be enslaved as local governments and businessmen wished to. With slave labor being critical to the economies of far-flung colonies, Jesuits very quickly got a bad rap for standing in the way of...
No. Okay. Look. Okay. Heads up, we detected copyrighted audio on your stream. Your stream may be temporarily blocked. Well, I'm not sure how much further I can get then with these popping up. I just wanted to do a quick rundown on just on what the Illuminati are. It appears that they're even stopping me from learning about them through the YouTubes. How would we learn about them now? I guess I'll just have to look for somebody else to explain it for me. Teen Titan Go? No. Nope. Also a bit hesitant on what will happen if we keep scrolling down. Come on, go away, block. They're blocking my stream. They're blocking my stream. Trying to see some Illuminati. Illuminati. Let's just kind of do a little bit of checking out filters. What's the most viewed about the Illuminati? A music song by Little Pump and Annul AA. All right, we're back in business. All right, so don't know which one I can click. Well, if that Mr. Beast video was giving me copyrighted issues yesterday, then I'm assuming Good Mythical Morning might do the same thing as well. But let's try it.
Imagine what would happen if every person in the United States suddenly visited
Man,
your
that's such
website.
a great
Would it
mustache.
crash?
Some of your favorite celebrities might be a part of the Illuminati.
Let's talk about that.
Being a part of the Illuminati, or just different conjecture about. Comment section on any video on the YouTubes, you probably have seen Illuminati confirmed, or just different conjecture about people being a part of the Illuminati.
But frequently
this?
Illuminati confirmed.
Always jealous of his hair.
Right.
We're going to get to the bottom of this today. I'm going to explain a little bit about the background of the
And his
Illuminati, and
mustache.
then we're going to try to figure
And
out
beard.
who is and who is not a part of the Illuminati.
Cool.
Okay.
The lights just flickered, by the way.
They did.
Is that
Well,
I think
because
I'm
the
just jealous
Illuminati
of
controls
Link's
the power grid,
hair.
and they know we're
I'm
making
jealous
this
of both of
episode.
their hairs.
right? But Nartu did he make his way over here? Let's not
I don't
get
know
into
if he
that.
followed us or not.
Okay,
anyway.
download it on me.
Okay, so what's the history of this thing? Well, it goes back to, I'll download it, Link. It goes back to 1776, a little thing called the Bavarian Illuminati. This is
Yes,
the very
teach us.
first
Teach
secret
us what they wanna
society
tell
that
us.
the modern day one is kind of based on.
Okay.
Modern day Germany, we're talking about Bavaria, it's a region in Germany. The society's goals, the Illuminati at that point, the society's goals were to oppose superstition and religious influence over public life and the abuses of state power. Okay? So kind of like a secular organization. But in the 1780s, just a few years after it got started, it, along with a lot of other secret societies like the Freemasons,
I gotta say, I like that shirt. Of a narwhal, I think it is. I think that's a narwhal.
was outlawed.
Fits with like the setting of the background, what they have going on.
Back then, that it continued to operate underground.
Underground.
Now, fast forward to modern times, there's really no connection to the Bavarian Illuminati, but there is still a belief that there is a global elite secret society that controls a lot of things, including the U.S. government, the British government, the UN, the space program, global banks, and the entire entertainment industry. And this is a very popular conspiracy theory, and these people believe that the Illuminati is working to get their hands into all these different things in society and to establish a new world order.
I wonder if they like it being called a conspiracy theory. They probably just call it, like, analysis.
Right.
My question is why? They say to establish a new world order. What does that mean?
They believe this to be 100% true. Now, where you get into this Illuminati confirmed stuff is they think that the Illuminati likes to taunt people.
No. All right. Copyrighted stuff. I know the deal. I got as far as I could with Good Mythical Morning. Let's do the SpongeBob theory. After, of course, this ad that we're not going to show. Just, come on, Oh, look at us. We're not doing any, doing copyrighted stuff. Wow, wowee. Let's, you know what? Let's listen to some music. How lovely. Let's see what we get when we just Google search Illuminati. Several groups, both real and fictitious. Right, this is what we just looked up. Who are members? I feel like this would be, if they don't post, I feel like this would be like a thing that's like, you know, you keep the secret out in the open. Like, oh, they're part of the Illuminati. Alleged celebrities. Got Beyonce, Jay-Z. It's interesting Jay-Z's in the Illuminati. Oh, because Beyonce's in it. Madonna. Ooh, she's gotten old. At least like some work done that's pretty Jokerish. Donald Trump. Ha! Kim Kardashian. No, I gotta say, after looking up the definition for Illuminati, I'm really disappointed by this list. Let's see what else we got. Still, okay, no. Alright, let's do this. Let's kind of go to, let's steer into a new river. Let's learn about the sponge hedge theory.
By by Squarespace. When it comes to websites, online stores, etc., there's no place to build a beautiful online presence like Squarespace. So this is the third installment in an unexpected yet incredibly popular series of mine where I take SpongeBob episodes and try to find the meaning in these very formative experiences the show's characters undergo. Whereas we usually end up talking about the old Squidster, today I want to talk about the sponge himself, SpongeBob SquarePants, and arguably the most traumatizing episode he's in. When you think of peak SpongeBob, you usually think of those first 3 seasons, but today's episode actually comes from well into season 5. And it's called Spongehenge. Spongehenge, a witty reference to Stonehenge, is one of SpongeBob's least funny episodes, but it's also one of its scariest, as it tells the story of SpongeBob being followed by jellyfish to a point where he has to escape society altogether. It's a very unsettling episode, and that's an understatement. It's also in a lot of people's top 10 worst SpongeBob episodes lists. But it's a lot more than that, and to understand why, let's take it from the top. The episode starts with 2 restaurant goers leaving a diner with takeout, when all of a sudden they notice a heavy gust of wind. The one fish claims it's...
Is it still wind if it's underwater? What is underwater wind? Not what I wanted. Underwater turbines. Like, is it just, are they called just waves, or is there another term for it? Offshore wind? No. Can there be wind underwater? I'm hesitant to click on this video, because what if I get yelled at again? We'll do it.
The beauty of tidal turbines is that normally you don't see them, but we all know what windmills look like and how they produce clean energy, so long as the wind is blowing. But a tidal turbine is very much like a wind turbine, turned upside down and stuck into the sea. And as you can see, when the water moves past it, it turns the rotor and can generate electricity. The big advantage of tidal turbines is that water is 800 times denser than air. And for that reason, the tidal turbine can collect very much more power and energy.
Nice 800.
The other big advantage of tidal turbines is that they are as predictable as clockwork. And
this guy is just prepared.
they also can be relied upon to carry on coming and going
anywhere?
Twice a day, every day,
That
forever
cup from
and
nowhere?
ever.
I guess the cup was right there.
So long as the tides keep going, there'll be enough energy to boil my cups of tea, and yours too. Cheers.
You might have said who he is. Frankel. Nice. Okay, either way, that didn't answer my question. I think they're just called waves. Is there wind underwater? Does underwater ocean have weather? Does it have weather? What? Yes, it does. It's called mesoscale eddies. Eddies and winds do behave dynamically in similar ways since they both in approximate geostrophic balance. Wiki this term. Speed in the oceans are slow or smaller spectacle scales and have longer dormant periods than the wind. Blows winds, blah blah blah. Well, if anything, I'm just gonna say it's like either current or just waves. I don't think there's any. I mean, wind current. I mean, it seems like that's probably the closest that we're gonna get. Back to the Stonehenge theory.
Neptune, the god of the
Spongehenge.
sea in Roman mythology, and the other claims everyone knows Poseidon is the ruler of the sea, which according to most websites is the actual truth, and is also the god of the sea for Greek mythology. At the end of the day, the wind blows away the fish's takeout food, and he screams, "Why, dear Neptune?" The leftovers fly over the city until they hit SpongeBob in the face. He licks them up and recognizes that it is indeed goulash. Now, goulash was an oddly specific choice for the writers to use, and I looked up the symbolism behind the dish, and I got nothing, it's just goulash. But in the process of tossing out the goulash, SpongeBob discovers a sound that the wind makes in his holes. It doesn't take long for this music to reach a jellyfish, who instantly grows pretty attached to
I gotta say, where is it? There we go.
It doesn't take long for this music to reach a jellyfish, who instantly got nothing, it's just goulash. But in the process of tossing
This is
out
like
the
triggering
goulash,
somebody's tryptophobia.
SpongeBob discovers a sound that the wind makes.
I wonder if that's how a kid discovered that they had tryptophobia, looking at SpongeBob.
Holes. It doesn't take long for this music to reach a jellyfish, who instantly grows pretty attached to Sponge.
Oh, they're pretty
and by attached, I mean
spread out.
attached.
I guess
He
they
crawls
probably
into
couldn't-
SpongeBob's head and swarms around his brain until the morning. But come the morning, the jellyfish doesn't want to leave. In fact, he sends over a swarm of jellyfish that prevent SpongeBob from being able to go to work. He's eventually dragged into work via a hook by his boss, Mr. Krabs, only to show up to work pretty much dead. But he isn't at work for long because the jellyfish swarm the Krusty Krab and take him away. So now his work is gone, so where to next? Patrick's house, where the jellyfish actually sting Patrick and leads to Pat kicking out SpongeBob for being a negative influence. What a terrible friend, to be honest.
Poor.
So SpongeBob is forced to leave society, and he
SpongeBob.
crawls into the one place they can't find or hear him, a cave, where he sits out for years and constructs a stone replica of himself using a rock, and eventually grows that facial hair he always wanted. Then he gets the idea to use that rock, but bigger versions of it, to lure the jellyfish away from him. He essentially recreates Stonehenge, he goes back to Bikini Bottom, and the world is gone, a reference to the Planet of the Apes. Flash forward another few thousand years, and aliens have taken over and are still examining these strange.
Interesting that you're using fire underneath. They must be using like some sort of fuse-like material, thermite.
Strange rock figures, and that's the end of the episode. And that's a pretty dark ending, no? I think this episode is definitely one of the show's most
That is pretty dark.
unsettling, like I said, as far as how it leaves you. For one, canonically, it assumes that those last moments were the last that Bikini Bottom saw of SpongeBob, and the last that we saw of Bikini Bottom altogether. Which is pretty depressing considering Patrick's last words were that he was a negative influence, and that Mr. Krabs spent his last moments reeling him in, abusing the poor lad. And SpongeBob just kind of disappeared and went crazy, and we're to assume he just went crazier and eventually died alone. And as soon as I learned that this was episode 99B, that's when it hit me that this is most likely just the last SpongeBob episode. We're forgetting one.
Wait, didn't SpongeBob have like 30 not 30, like 20 seasons? I'm gonna look this up. How many seasons of SpongeBob, South Park. SpongeBob, like, yeah, 13.
One small detail though, and it's what happens at that beginning. If this really was Neptune or Poseidon, we're to assume that this wipeout was intentional, which leaves us with two questions of why did this happen and what is the point? Now my first thought was, oh, maybe Poseidon is just really annoyed with being called Neptune. A lot of this is him getting his revenge on society. But then I was like, no, it's gotta be more than that. In this episode are themes of both religious beliefs and climate change, and I think this episode serves as a statement for how a civilization reacts when both their
I mean, I guess he didn't really touch on. I can see religious, but climate change just kind of seems out of left field.
their beliefs and physical surroundings are altered. I do think the root of the entire episode is in that small conversation at the beginning, especially after further research into the religious lore of Bikini Bottom. Based on what I could find, Poseidon wasn't mentioned in the series at all up until this episode. He does later show up in Sponge on the Run, but honestly, that movie is so detached from everything else in the show, I don't even want to take it into consideration.
Aren't Poseidon and Neptune the same?
But for the most part, it's been
That's from
established many times that Neptune is in fact the ruler of the sea, most notably in the Golden Spatula episode, as well as the movie. But something I noticed, especially after this fish's argument, is that I don't think Neptune was ever a god. Sure, he had godly powers, but that didn't necessarily make him a god himself. In fact, in the first SpongeBob movie, it's made very clear that he's actually a king, and honestly, he's barely that. When he loses his crown and reveals his bald spot, he feels pretty powerless. Sure, he shares the same traits as the mythological god Neptune in that he has a short temper, but there's nothing in this movie or in any of the seasons that suggests King Neptune is a god. In fact, a god is technically ageless, and if King Neptune is going bald,
Eve to me is basically freedom. It's a giant open universe where you can do what
it doesn't add up, which is my way of saying
I mean, you have some gods that are going bald.
That she's right. This
I think I mean, I guess there's the god of Baldin, right?
Wind is definitely not King Neptune, but I also don't think it's Poseidon. See, I think Poseidon exists, sure. If I gotta include Sponge on the Run, I will. And it makes the case for him being an actual god in this universe, but that said, that doesn't necessarily mean that this destruction is necessarily caused by Poseidon. Based on that movie, Poseidon just doesn't seem like the type to destroy for any particular
That doesn't mean that Poseidon can't be a king and another person being Poseidon the god. Same thing for Neptune. It could be one as the god and one as the king. Just named after, the king was named after the god.
There's no lore suggesting he wants revenge or that he gets angry. It just doesn't add up.
I mean, why do you think there's so many people named Jesus and Muhammad and,
So now I'm like, what is this wind? For the record, the wind continues for the next 3,000 years. It never stops. And I'm just like, where is it coming from? Why is it happening? So I start thinking, Neptune. Oh, Neptune. The actual planet of Neptune is rarely, if ever, referenced in the show. Now, I'm not good with space science, but not only is Neptune made mostly of water, but it's also famously extremely windy. You Google the windiest planet and you literally get Neptune.
My thoughts. Hold on. I gotta look up Neptune. Planet. Overview. Because I just knew it was a planet. I guess I never really thought too much about it because it looks like a gas giant. It's not a gas giant, I'm assuming. Okay. Dark cold, whipped by supersonic winds, ice giant Neptune. Safe, blah blah blah. It's the only planet in our solar system not visible by the naked eye, and the first predicted by mathematics before its discovery. 10 need to know things about Neptune. Giant. Neptune is about 4 times wider than Earth. If Earth is a large apple, Neptune would be the size of a basketball. Neptune orbits the Sun and is the 8th planet from the Sun. Short day, long years. Neptune takes about 16 hours to rotate once and about 165 Earth years to orbit the Sun. Neptune year. Neptunian day, Neptunian year. Global color mosaic of Triton. Neptune is an ice giant. Most of the mass is a hot, dense fluid of icy materials, water, methane, and ammonia, above a small rocky core. Now, how do they know this? That there's like a small rocky core. How do we know it's not built up above, just ice? This is I gotta look this up. Even Jupiter. How can we tell Jupiter has a core? let's... I don't know Jupiter has no solid core. You never go around with core, right? We don't know... We do not know that Jupiter has or has not a solid core. Under the tremendous pressure of Jupiter's core, 4,000 gigapascals, about 40 million times Earth sea level pressure. Many materials that would otherwise been gaseous or liquids would become solid, which makes sense. If you give something a lot of pressure, it will turn into a solid, or in water's case, liquid. Although I think it also depends on if it's like hot enough, it could be like a really hot solid, which is really interesting because of the way that phasing that water works. Anyways, so that makes sense that there's like a solid. That's the assumptions there. So I can see why they made that assumption for Neptune, because there's so much pressure from that gas giant that all the gases could possibly just be crushed into a solid core. Which begs the question, if it's like this big, then why does it have such a strong gravity? Like, why does it have strong gravitational pull on everything equally then, right? Like, why is it perfectly round? Kind of like the same explanation as like why we have all the gases stuck on Earth. And why don't they go out through the surface? Probably because more just not. I guess I can't say. I know gravity, right? But like if it's like gas collecting. Look at me trying to work out the science in my head. Gas is all collecting to the point where like there's so much of it that they start to like want to collect because of gravitational forces from all those masses, to the point where you start to have great pressure building up from them all pushing down onto you. Pressure of 49 gigapascals and temperatures of 36 plus Kelvin, and the core cannot really be duplicated long term in laboratory. Makes sense. Jupiter's been going at it for centuries, so probably millions of years. But that makes sense. It makes you wonder, like, the actual structures for like how it keeps it all in there, though, right? And Neptune's gaseous atmosphere is made up mostly of molecular hydrogen, atomic helium, and methane. Moons, that's 14 moons, which are named after sea gods and nymphs in Greek mythology. Faint rings. It has at least 5 main rings and 4 more ring arcs, which are lumps of dust and debris likely formed by the gravity of a nearby moon. Okay, so I'm assuming like one part's thicker than the other, or like part of a ring. I'm just trying to imagine it. Which makes sense, right? We have satellites going around the Earth, so there should be definitely gonna have some like debris going around in a line like that. Which is pretty cool. One voyage there. Voyager 2 was the only spacecraft to have visited Neptune. No spacecraft has orbited this distant planet to study its length and up close. Not support life as we know it. Simple fact: because of dwarf planet Pluto's elliptical orbit, Pluto is sometimes closer to the Sun and us than Neptune is. Oh, hey! Even look around at the planet. Whoa. Look at its bottom and its top. Ice giant. I guess I never thought of it as the ice giant. I just thought of it as like another gaseous planet. You see it kind of like the fainted rings. They have like the clusters. Unless this is like the weird clusters of it. Ooh, we can scroll out pretty far. Whoa. Oh, this is cool. Solar system exploration. Our galactic neighborhood. Whoa. We're going in. Pioneer 10. Whoa. Now it's interesting that like you see the planets are all mostly lined up. I think there's like a physics experiment or at least an explanation describing how like when things kind of like bang together after for so long they start to like kind of like flatten out onto the same plane. Like even if it's coming like one's coming from like, you know, up and down and the other one's coming from like left and right, eventually kind of works out into going into the same plane into like a specific spin, either going clockwise or counterclockwise. I don't particularly know the reasoning as to why that is, or like the maths of it. Because if you look at like, I mean, kind of just going, I know this is a diagram, right? So there's can't be like 100% accuracy. But I mean, look at that. It's pretty much on the same plane. Close enough. Whereas Pluto, for ex-member of the solar system, it's still kind of going on around the same plane, but just like a bit out of it, you know? Like the rebellious. Let's check it out. Let's look around at the moons. There's 14 moons. Where are the 14 moons? My turn. Neptune system. I mean, these aren't the moons, right? No, these are just different dwarf planets outside. Show me your moons. See, because if we go to Jupiter, I want Jupiter. Can we see all 79 moons? Or can we only see like the very popular moons? Yeah, I guess we only can see like not all the smaller ones or all of them. Okay, we'll just see the popular ones. Io, Juna. Juna. Anyways, let's kind of go back to SpongeBob.
Which, if you know where I'm going with this, is to suggest that this episode is the story of a civilization crumbling physically and mentally as their entire beliefs and existence are questioned, as they have been living on a different planet the entire time. According to Ismail Hamdi, the only way for a god to die is to destroy the significance their names hold. In this conversation, the debunking of...
That's just a theory. Right? The only way to erase something is by just removing the name of it from the book. Or like destroying the documentation of it. If you can't have a memory of it, then it never existed, right?
Neptune as the god of the sea essentially kills Neptune as a god, redefining the name as less of a figure and more as the planet in which these fish live. Now, a few things. Something that immediately debunks this is the numerous times SpongeBob and his gang make their way onto land, all of which come across very Earth-like. When you look up planet Earth on the SpongeBob Wikipedia, there's basically a episode for every continent out there. They've been all over the place. But most of this show...
Hold on. Four countries, Scotland, blah, blah, blah. SpongeBob and Patrick visit the country, K1.
For every continent out there, they've been all over the place. But most of this show, through this lens, can be assumed to be a hallucination or false reality. There's tons of theories that SpongeBob is hallucinating for most of the show. A concrete episode we can cite as an explanation for where we are in the universe is Sandy's rocket, where they go into space. In this episode, it's never specifically shown that they leave Earth. They do circle the moon, which is a stretch. Neptune is pretty far from that, but that's not really the point. They get there and they come back. And that said, maybe this isn't our moon. Sandy's size suggests that this is actually way too small. My point is, it's never shown that they're specifically leaving Earth or coming back to it, so this could very well be Neptune the whole time. The thing about this theory is because it's rooted in a false reality, most of the episodes that prove Bikini Bottom takes place on Earth can be debunked because they've been living through a false lens. And also, a lot of those episodes don't add up with this original SpongeBob timeline I'm basing things off of. But their literal home isn't the only thing that breaks in this episode. In fact, there's a few things we should be looking at. One of which is obviously SpongeBob. SpongeBob's entire life falls apart, starting with what used to be one of his favorite activities turning into a nightmare, followed by him being late for the first time in his career as a fry cook, which coincidentally also ends up being his last, and then being beaten senseless by his boss, and then being left abandoned by his own best friend. The guy is tortured. What breaks is SpongeBob's perception of his surroundings. What's interesting about the religion in Bikini Bottom is that there aren't rules or whatever, the way there are rules and guidelines for certain religions in our world. From what I could find, nobody really knows the religions in Bikini Bottom. It's only vaguely understood that they worship King Neptune, and this episode proved some people disagree with that, which is horrifying. That debunking King Neptune, this singular figure, embracing the truth of their surroundings, is enough to cause such a chaotic disruption. Whatever they held on to with King Neptune was apparently tons of good morals, and it poses the question of what is lost for SpongeBob as he transforms into a psychotic mess, deprived of connection and forced to make do with a rock after assuming everyone hates him. I see this episode as a horror story, that after years of SpongeBob using jellyfish as food or as prey, that nature, now fully recognized, is coming back to haunt, treating him and the rest of Bikini Bottom as prey. When that disassociation happens, SpongeBob loses his mind. His world, now sanded over, is gone. His friends assumed to have died, and like them, SpongeBob is assumed to starve and die a slow, painful death in a barren wasteland, which comes down to his legacy. His legacy is Spongehenge, a mysterious structure that, as proven by the aliens of the future, has this unknown origin. I mean, perhaps it's a happy ending, considering they serve as a place of celebration for jellyfish every year, but it's undoubtedly unsettling, seeing as though SpongeBob's only legacy, a legacy that's lasted thousands of years, was his final suffering. And I think that's it. While I usually like to find the meaning in why this show does what it does, Spongehenge is left ambiguous in a really terrifying way. That Bikini Bottom took place on Neptune all along, and that the citizens died a terrible, mysterious death with the realization of that. SpongeBob episodes usually leave you with some sort of message, and the message here is that the universe is something more powerful than any form of human connection, and that nature can be violent enough to wipe out entire civilizations if it comes down to that. And that's how SpongeBob ends. So yeah, with all that being said, thanks for watching. Check out Spongehenge and form your...
I feel like this was just an episode for them to work in Planet of the Apes, with SpongeBob having that amazing... do.
Abusing the poor lad. And SpongeBob just kind of disappeared and went crazy, and we're to assume he just went crazy.
Oh, where is it? I want to get another good look. It looks good. I'm jealous.
transforms into a...
You look at that. Although it was pretty fishy when I... Although, I know those are probably supposed to be like sugar cubes, but probably in the episode they made them like, you know, rock sugar cubes, because that's all he can get his hands on. But yeah, anyways, wrong button. Yeah, so today I just wanted to go over or at least try to learn more about the Illuminati. I know we did a little bit of reading. I was hoping to do more looking on the YouTubes, but it seemed to be running into a lot of copyright issues. So, seems like they're trying to prevent us from learning something. Next time we'll figure out, or maybe not.